They call him Seatin, the man of legends.
Hello ladies and gents, welcome to a video in which today we are taking a look at the 3.0 Mastery. Now Masteries are kind of a new route of the Soul Tree progression that is coming in the Rift 3.0 Nightmare Tide expansion. Now Masteries have been changing quite a lot over the last couple of months and probably will change quite a bit before launch, but we're just here to give you an idea today of what kind of stuff you're going to be looking out for and roughly how Masteries work. So basically, at every level past level 60, you do not gain an additional soul point. The soul trees stay exactly the same, but instead you gain a tier of mastery. Now you'll see on the right hand side of the soul tree section there is cleric mastery, and then you have level 61, level 62, all the way up to level 65. Now each tier offers kind of a different kind of bonus or ability, and today we're going to sort of briefly cover what the tiers do. Now the masteries are completely different for all four of the different callings, so cleric, warrior, mages and rogues all have different masteries. So that's just something to bear in mind. The cleric and mage ones are fairly similar, so the warrior and rogue ones. However, the warrior and rogue ones aren't really in a close to done state at the moment, whereas the cleric and mage ones are a bit more sort of able to demonstrate. They're a bit more well-rounded, and we can show them off today. So level 61 you get a mastery which is essentially either a defensive mastery or something that gives you a bit of increased self-healing, which is good for soloing. So this is kind of like a defensive slash solo tier. Now the first thing you have to choose from is you can increase your block and mitigation and guard by 5%, so a fairly standard buff there. The next one is called Avenging Shield, and this causes critical hits with damaging and healing abilities to apply an absorb shield to you, absorbing damage up to 3% of your maximum health. And this can occur once up to every 6 seconds, so that is also something that's, pretty damn cool. So that's probably the standard one to use for most sort of healing and DPS people, just because, in like a raid environment, you're constantly going to be proccing this shield, and it will give you that buffer of additional survivability. The next thing is Soul Collector, so basically whenever you kill an enemy, you heal 4% of your maximum health over 5 seconds, and that can occur once up to every second. So pretty much whenever you kill an enemy, you get a small heart which heals 4% of your maximum health over 5 seconds. And the final thing to choose from, which is Vicar's Resilience, so while in combat you heal 50% of your endurance every 3 seconds, and that seems to be sort of the go-to one for like soloing. It might be between that and Avenging Shield, but Vicar's Resilience seems to be sort of the better overall one at the moment, because that's pretty good. I mean, for me, it's like a 2k heal every 3 seconds, which is pretty damn awesome. Now, as we move up to the level 62 tier, that has a variety of basically buffs that increase healing done and received and provide additional benefits in certain tiers. So the first one is called Healing Remnant. Healing over time and absorb abilities apply a stack of Healing Remnant. This increases healing received by 2% per stack, max 2 stacks. So basically, whenever you heal an ally, they get a buff which increases healing by 2%. Stacks 2 times, so that's 4% more healing for a healer. Pretty damn straightforward. This is one that tanks will probably want to pick up, so allies affected by your guard receive 2% more healing. Guard is a new basically AoE kind of aura that tanks will get, but we're not going to delve too much into guard on this video. The next thing is Divine Inspiration, so this increases healing done and absorption granted by a solid 5%, and also removes the stacking restriction from Inquisitor buffs, and casting one Inquisitor buff will apply all known armor buffs. So basically, whenever I cast one of my buffs, it will apply all of them. You'll see, I've got Armor Awakening, Armor of Devotion, and Armor of Treachery up, so that one alone is a pretty decent buff to Inquisitors. It's like 5% extra crit and some survivability and base health, so that's a nice little tidbit in there. And then the final thing is Blessing of Penitence. I probably butchered the name of that, but increases incoming healing by 3% and increases the range of Fervent Strike to 20 meters. So that's probably something that a druid want to pick up. I believe that is a druid ability. So, you know, that's how sort of Masteries sync in with druids. So it basically means that you can play druid a bit more easily ranged. So that's pretty damn cool. And then moving up to level 63. Now the level 63 tier is all about utility. So you've got movement speed stuff, you've got mana regen, CC reduction. So Swift Judgment increases mounted movement speed by 10% and increases the radius of your guard. So that's kind of a tank one and a standard, you know, just movement speed increase by 10%. Fairly straightforward. The next one is Meditation, increases your mana regeneration, and using a single target cleanse to remove an effect from an ally applies an additional cleanse to the same ally after 3 seconds. So using this one, it basically means that you as a healer have a double cleanse. So that's pretty awesome. Now the next one, I believe this is actually getting changed. We talked about this on the live stream, is Faith's Freedom. So it reduces the cooldown of crowd control effects. When casting a combat resurrection, the revived ally has their attack power and spell power increased by 100% for 20 seconds. Now, we talked about all the ways this could be super exploited in PvP, and it is probably going to be nerfed, so don't expect it to be that powerful, but that basically allows allies that you combat res to maybe, you know, make up for a bit of that lost damage that they had when they died. And the final thing is Supplicant's Haste. So this is kind of like a movement speed buff that stacks up to 4 times whenever you cast a instant or channeled ability. So sort of in longer term fights or maybe long term PvP battles, this might be the better one because, you know, it's 2% more movement speed overall than a talent like Swift Judgment. So it's all about sort of adapting to your situation. Now, one thing I want to quickly cover is that Masteries can be changed at any time. You don't need to go to a trainer to change them. So, like, for example, I can shuffle the point from, like, Swift Judgment, I don't know, into Supplicant's Haste, change these around, and then I can save and exit that. So, usually in the Soul Tree, it would be locked. But in Masteries, it's not locked. So, if for another fight, you know, maybe I want, I don't know, Vicar's Resilience and increased healing on myself, and maybe I want more mana regeneration, I can do that just by the click of a simple button. So that is really cool and convenient, so you can kind of adapt the Masteries based on your scenario. So in the lower tiers, you know, it doesn't matter too much, but the higher tiers, which is what we're going to go on to talk about, you know, you are going to change this stuff around fairly often. Now, level 64 is all about increasing damage and sort of, you know, having your damaging abilities do more. So you have Faith's Reward, so instant and channeled abilities apply a stacking buff to you, reducing the cast time of your next non-instant ability by 0.5 seconds per stack. So this is also a shared one between mages and clerics. It will certainly make some of the more hard casting specs such as Pyromancer and Inquisitor a bit more interesting. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how that pans out. Then you've got Steady Assault. Now this is one that I think initially seems fairly worthless in comparison to the others. So this increases your damage done by 10%, but decreases the chance to critically hit by 5%. So that one seems a bit too much of a damage loss overall, or really not too much of a damage gain. It kind of seems like it would have 0 benefit. It really depends on how stats and scaling work, but now that's kind of like just a flat out like, I don't know, maybe 1% increase, or maybe even a bit of a reduction if you're low on the attack power and quite high on the crit power. So, you know, we'll have to see how that one pans out. Now, Diversify, basically abilities apply a stack of Diversify to you. Each stack increases damage done by 1.5% per stack. Now, stacks can only be applied up to once every 10 seconds per damage type. So basically, it's going to take you 10 seconds to get the 3 stacks up, and you are going to have to sort of actively maintain them. So that's good for fights where you can constantly nuke stuff. But maybe for fights which are short-term encounters, the next one's going to be better, which is Parasitic Miasma. Now this increases damage by 2%, but only stacks up to 2 times, so that's a maximum of a 4% damage increase in comparison to the 4.5% one, but this one can essentially be like applied almost, well, within 2 casts, and you got the full benefit from it. So for short bursty fights, maybe like short bursty PvP, that one might be better, but for longer fights, then Diversify looks like it sort of rears ahead. Now, going on to the level 65 abilities. Now, they are basically abilities, yeah? You get an additional ability that you can choose from. Now, the abilities are very unique in the way that they work, because most of them have multiple functions. Now, we're going to go through each one of them. Now, basically, the first one is a healing type ability. So this is called Divine Providence or Divine Favor. So what happens is, basically, you can put the debuff of, well, the buff of Divine Favor on 3 different members of your raiding party. So this causes, whenever you heal, to heal those 3 members for an additional amount. So the best way to explain that is that that's kind of like a really weak version of Life-Giving Veil that a Chloromancer would have, that you can put on 3 different members of your party, and they will get additional health every time you know, cast a heal. So that's pretty good, and it allows you maybe in a raid to put it on like both of the tanks and somebody who's quite flimsy. The next thing is called Phantom Stream. Now this can be used in 2 ways. The first way it can be used is a hard-hitting ethereal damage ability. Ethereal damage is damage that is not mitigated by any sort of defense, or you can use it on yourself to restore a large amount of health each second for 3 seconds. So at the moment it's set to 50% of the cleric's maximum health each second, which is bloody OP, so I believe that's probably going to get nerfed. The next thing you have is Arcane Manipulation. Now this has 3 different uses. So the primary function, well, the first thing it will try to do if you cast it on an enemy is remove 2 buffs from the enemy. Now if there are no buffs on the enemy, it will deal a large amount of ethereal damage. So yeah, that's essentially it. It can be used as a purge, but if there are no buffs, then it will just deal a large amount of damage. So that has multiple uses, like in PvP as an additional purge. So, you know, it's all about sort of toying around with the situation and what you need. And then you have Arcane Manipulation. You can use it on an ally to remove 2 curses, diseases, or poisons. So this kind of has a very nice overall use, especially for PvP, because maybe if, I don't know, I've just killed another Inquisitor or Pyromancer and I want to get rid of these hard-hitting dots on me, I can just use Arcane Manipulation to remove that. So that's pretty cool. And the final thing is called Punishing Strike. This, I believe this is going to be the standard level 65 mastery ability to take for Druids and Shamans. So what it does is it deals a large amount of damage and refreshes the cleric's active Frozen Wrath and Eruption of Life on the enemy, and also reduces the cooldown of Resounding Blow by 1 second. So that is a pretty cool ability, and it's also going to add another dynamic to the sort of Shaman and Druid rotations that we have that we currently experience in the game. So ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the first look at Masteries. They are pretty awesome, neat little abilities, passives, and bits and bobs that can be switched out at any time. That is the short summary of them, but I very much look forward to them. I hope to bring you Rogue and Warrior Masteries when they actually do hit the PTS, but for now, as I said, guys, they aren't up in an acceptable state. Maybe next week, maybe the week after, but like half the Masteries are missing, so there would be limited point me actually doing a video on the Rogue or Warrior Masteries now. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching the video. Have a wonderful day. If you have any specific requests for 3.0 videos, please do let me know, and I'll try my best to bring you guys what you want. Yeah, apart from that, take care. Have a wonderful day.